What is up everyone, my name is Jasper and in today's video I wanted to talk about Ezoic now that I've been with them for nearly 3 years. So Ezoic is one of my preferred ad companies for my smaller and Dutch websites, and over the last 3 years I have really enjoyed working with them. Now since recording this video it has been exactly 1073 days ago since I first joined Ezoic and first started serving ads on my site. And 1073 days ago is about a month shy of exactly 3 years. So now after 3 years I really want to share my experience with Ezoic, and I'm going to do that by going over all of my websites that have ever been on Ezoic. We're going to go over how much these websites have made, what the EPMV was and what I think of that EPMV of course, and any other notable events. So I joined Ezoic on July 23rd of 2019, and back then I only had one website, which was my English beauty site. The English beauty site at that time was only about 5 or 6 months old, and it didn't actually reach the page view threshold that Ezoic had in place back then. So back then you needed 10,000 page views to join Ezoic. I was only at 2 or maybe 3,000 page views a month, so I didn't actually qualify. But back then there was a sort of workaround around this, which was going on in the Project 24 community. And that was basically, if you got referred by another member, you could get in early at around 2 or maybe 3,000 page views. So the moment I reached that number, I of course immediately contacted one of the Project 24 members and asked to be connected and get in contact with Ezoic. Now the main reason I wanted to get in so early is because Ezoic really was the first sort of proof of concept. Ezoic is, and especially in my case, it is for most of my sites the very first dollar that I make with it. So I mainly make money with ads and affiliates can be somewhat random, but ads is very consistent, and the very first dollars coming in from ads is one of the reassuring signs that especially someone that's just starting out really wants or even needs to see. So back then I was making a few cents a day, maybe $1 a day or so, which really wasn't all that much, but it meant the world to me because this was finally proof that what I was doing is actually working. So I joined on July 23rd, 2019. And back then, as I mentioned, I got referred by another Project 24 member. He connected me to my, by then, account manager, and he basically set everything up for me. So back then, I really had no idea what I was doing with Ezoic. I have zero experience with all of this, and basically having someone do the heavy lifting and all of that back-end work for me was super nice. So this account manager, he worked for me for my beauty site, then for my Dutch beauty site, and then also for my Dutch boating site. But the moment I took my English beauty site away from Ezoic, he just flat out stopped responding to me at all. So I shot him several emails, I believe 4 or 5 emails, and no reply on any of them. Whereas before, I would get a reply within at least a few days, sometimes a little longer, but he would reply. But after I left with one of my sites, he never responded to me at all anymore. So that is a bit of a negative. But honestly, it did force me to kind of get to know things myself and trying to get things optimized myself, which is something I think is going to be very valuable. So the first 3 sites got set up for me, all the other sites I did myself. But overall, Ezoic has gotten much easier to use. So back then I mentioned that I really didn't know how to get things set up. And I think even if I, with all my knowledge right now, was set back in that period, I still have no clue what I was doing. Ezoic has made incredible improvements in making things easier to use. But the main reason I joined Ezoic is, as I mentioned, I wanted a proof of concept. I wanted to see some actual money coming in. However low it was, however small, like pocket change it was, seeing some money come in meant the world to me because it showed what I was doing is actually working, and from here I can just scale upwards and upwards. So speaking of money and those first few paychecks, let's dive into the computer and see just how much all of my sites have made and what the APMVs were. So we're right here in the sheet, and I'm going to start off with the beauty site. Now just to make things easy, I will have all the data right here, and let's just go over it. So first off, I joined July 23rd, 2019 and I left October 17th, 2019. This is a really small period, so Ezoic didn't really have the chance to actually optimize everything the way it should have. But back then, Mediavine had a really low threshold. My site reached that threshold and I just wanted to get in there. So I left Ezoic, joined Mediavine, and that was that. So in total, this site was only with Ezoic for about 2.5 months, which really isn't all that much. But in that time, this website had a total of 83,000 page views, which made me a total of $600. Now that comes down to an EPMV of $9.85, and as I said here, the EPMV is pretty low, especially when we compare this to the Dutch beauty site, which is supposed to be a lot lower. There's some interesting comparisons to make there. But honestly, this is pretty low. But to be fair, of course, this was really early on. In 2019, the ad rates were just naturally lower. If we take this site and put it on Ezoic right now, I'm fairly certain that we will see a higher EPMV than just the $10 right here. So this was the very first site I got on Ezoic, and as I said, making $600 in 2.5 months when I never made money online before was really reassuring. This really showed me that what I was doing was working and that I really should just continue doing what I've been doing. Now onto the Dutch beauty site. This is the Dutch version of the English beauty site we just discussed. And I joined Ezoic with this website on December 2nd, 2019. So it's a little later on. And this website really didn't have that many page views, which you can see right here as well. The data right here is from December 2nd up till the day I'm recording. So during all those 1.5 to 2 years, this website only had 45,000 page views and only made a total of $480. But the interesting thing here is that when we look at the EPMV, it's actually higher than the English version. And typically, English websites, especially the ones that get a lot of American visitors, have much higher RPMs or EPMVs. So this really shows you that the time period really does matter. I'll make sure to put a picture on the screen of the ad revenue index from Ezoic, and you'll see that it has just gradually risen every single year. I also have to say that the EPMV for this website started off pretty low at about $6 to $7, and it's steadily rising every single year. So right here I put a note that it has surprisingly good EPMV, and I still stand behind that. This website is really small, it gets very few visitors, but seeing that it made a total of $480, it is still $480 that I can reinvest back into the business. Then on to the next site, which is the Dutch boating site. I joined with this site on June 3rd, 2020. So that's about half a year later when compared to the Dutch beauty site. And this was my third site that I put on Ezoic. By the way, I just noticed that this time period between October 17th and December 2nd is the only time period I did not have a site on Ezoic. So that's about 2 months in the past 3 years where I did not have a site on Ezoic making me money. Let's get back to the boating site. This site joined on June 3rd, 2020. And during the time between June 3rd, 2020 and the time of recording this website had a total of 120,000 page views and made me a total of $750. This comes down to an EPMV of $7.40, which is a little bit lower than I would have liked to see. Of course, this is a Dutch website, so I didn't actually expect all that high EPMVs to begin with. But when we compare it to the Dutch beauty site, I would say that the Dutch boating site attracts visitors with a lot more expendable money. So I would say that this one should have had a higher EPMV, but it doesn't. But overall, this site is very, very decent. This, like I said here, is all around just very decent. Now for the exciting part, the accessory website. This site only joined on February 8th, 2020. So that's a couple of months ago from recording this video. And in the time from February 8th to now of me recording this website had a total of 124,000 visitors and made me a total of almost $2,000. The EPMV of this website is $18.17, which is really, really nice. To be honest, with Ezoic, I tend to expect an EPMV between 10 and maybe 15 at the high end. That's typically what I hear from other people and what I see on my sites. But this one is outperforming that. Now, I do need to say that the EPMV was a little bit higher when I first joined and it's actually gradually decreasing for whatever reason. But it really isn't decreasing by all that much, and I think it maybe have to do with seasonality and stuff like that. Overall, this website and the EPMV and Ezoic on this website is really exceeding my expectations. And lastly, I got the consumption site on Ezoic as well. This site joined on January 8th, 2022. And during that time between January 8th, 2022 and me recording this video, it had a total of 40,000 visitors and it made a total of $180. This comes down to an EPMV of $5.50, but the weird thing here, and this is where Ezoic really let me down, the EPMV started at around $15 to $20, and right now I'm seeing an average of $5.50. And this result here is also a bit skewed because right now, over the last 2 months, I believe, I've been seeing an average EPMV of about $4. So this really just kept on dipping and dipping and dipping. I mentioned how the accessory site EPMV was slowly declining. This one is declining much, much more. So as I said here, it started nice, but I'm super disappointed right now in the EPMV. So I'm honestly not sure how this worked. I connected this site to Ezoic in January, and January has the lowest RPMs. And then of course the first few weeks that you are on an ad network will also see the lowest RPMs as the ad network is trying to optimize everything. So I started at the worst time possible, but for whatever reason, the worst time possible has showed me the highest RPMs by a mile. So honestly, I'm not really sure how that happened, but to be honest, I don't really care. This is the site I want to sell off anyway, so it is disappointing, but it's not the end of the world. Now, interestingly enough, in 3 years, I only actually made about $4,000. So the total income is just shy of $4,000. And that kind of surprised me. I mean, 3 years with Ezoic, I would have expected to make a little bit more. But then I actually looked at it the right way and I noticed that Ezoic mainly served as a stepping stone for me. So Ezoic mainly served as a place to earn some residual income before I joined other ad networks and before the site really starts to take off. So the way I now look at this is this $4,000 is basically just almost extra money that I wouldn't have made otherwise. So overall, I am super happy with Ezoic. Ezoic has been fantastic throughout all those 3 years. It's the ad network I've been with for the longest. And it's the one that I completely trust. I know Ezoic is a bit of a controversial topic sometimes. But over the past 3 years, Ezoic has made me my first dollars online. It has helped me monetize Dutch sites, which are much harder to monetize. And I think Ezoic will always have a place in my portfolio. So the way I see Ezoic being used in my portfolio plan right now is basically any website that I start will be connected immediately. And this is mainly because I discovered the big data analytics, and I think gathering that data right from the get-go is going to be super valuable. So if you haven't checked out my big data analytics video, I would highly recommend you check it out because you can find some incredible clusters that are maybe underserved or are monetized much higher than other parts of your content. So definitely give that a watch. But honestly, with the big data analytics, I think connecting your site to Ezoic right away is the correct way to go. Now, this doesn't mean that you are serving ads right away. You're just collecting the data. And from there, of course, as I mentioned, Ezoic is going to be that stepping stone. It's the place where most of my sites, if not all of my sites, are going to end up at one point or another. So the way I've been using Ezoic right now, let's just take the beauty site for example. I connected it to Ezoic and I just had Ezoic ads on there until my website was large enough to go to a different ad network. Now, of course, it doesn't always make sense to shift from Ezoic. Maybe it's better to even stay with Ezoic for some sites, but that's something I would need to assess in the future. But Ezoic is one of those places that I think all of my sites are going to end up at one point or another. One thing I do want to work on is using their big data analytics even more efficiently because there's so much stuff to gather there. I'm sure I must have missed some things, but honestly there's so much data there that you can try to use and optimize your own website with. Other than that, I think most of my Dutch sites are going to end on Ezoic eventually and they will probably be there for the rest of their life as well. Most ad networks don't really accept Dutch sites anyway. I haven't really found a better alternative. So I think Ezoic is just a perfect place for foreign sites and starting sites. So that's really my experience with Ezoic. I really hope you learned something from it. I would definitely recommend you guys give Ezoic a go if you haven't already. And other than that, I really want to thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!